They're coming here and they're driving through the parking lot and spinning their tires and staring us down, and there's no need for it.
Tonight, non-Indigenous fishers protest Mikmaw lobster fisheries.
Provinces hold records. They hold death certificates. They hold records on burial permits. So it's important that the provincial archives open up as well.
Plus, residential school survivors and leaders meet in Montreal to call for action and healing. Good evening, Tanse Anin. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. In southwestern Nova Scotia, 2 people were arrested for assault at Soniaville Wharf over the weekend, where non-Indigenous people gathered to protest the Mikmaw fishery. Angel Moore reports.
About 30 non-Indigenous people gathered in protest against the Mikmaw fishery. On a video posted to Facebook, this user said, "These are your Mikmaw people, the keepers of the land, which I call the rapers of the sea, because that is what it is when you're raping a bay that's not supposed to be fished in because it's closed. What else is there?" RCMP said in a statement in 2 separate incidents, 2 men were arrested for assault. There were no injuries and no charges are expected to be laid. About 40 Mikmaw fishers spent the night at the wharf to protect their boats, including Robert Sack of the Sabaganagati First Nation.
They're coming here and they're driving through the parking lot and spinning their tires and staring us down, and there's no need for it.
The Mikmaw fishers of the Sabaganagati Nation are harvesting lobster under their community's food, social, and ceremonial fishery management plan. Robert Sack and his family are not deterred, with the support of their chief, Michelle Glasgow.
I'm very grateful that she did come out with us, because we do need community support. Michelle did come down, along with a couple other councillors came down, and they're showing support, and I'm glad she got to come out and see firsthand for herself what we're actually catching.
Last week, 2 Conservative MPs representing the area, Chris D'Entremont and Rick Parsons, in a letter to the Minister of Fisheries, called the Mikmaw poachers hauling hundreds of thousands of pounds of lobster per day. Shannon Sack of the Sabaganagati Nation says that is impossible, with 12 Mikmaw boats fishing 25 traps.
Each boat would have to bring in 200 crates of lobster, and nowhere have I ever heard, even during a commercial season, that a boat has brought in 200 crates of lobster in one day.
Robert Sack says the letter is criminalizing treaty rights.
He's inciting hate, and he's going to get people riled up. He said that tensions are rising and we're in illegal fisheries and all this stuff like that, and we've been through Supreme Court so many times, it's not illegal.
The Mikmaw have a treaty right to harvest to earn a moderate livelihood, upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada.
We're guaranteed access to everything in Nova Scotia, whether it's hunting or fishing or trapping or making baskets, anything. Our treaty says anything. And to call a Native person a poacher is really, really insulting.
But commercial fishers say the fishery is illegal and the stocks are at risk. Riley Howe says he is protecting future generations.
Most importantly, just down here exercising our treaty rights, so you know, maybe my kids or grandchildren will someday be down here doing the same thing I am. Maybe they'll have it a little bit better, but...
Sack says politicians need to work with the Mikmaw and is hopeful.
So we're staying vigilant, and we're here, and we're going to keep doing our thing. We're not going to stop because someone writes a letter or someone gets online and others threats or whatever. We're still going to be here.
Police continue to remain at Soniaville Wharf to ensure public safety. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Soniaville.
A 5th national gathering on missing children and unmarked graves took place in Montreal last week, where survivors and leaders shared their truths. Amelia Fournier has more.
Indigenous leaders, activists, and survivors gathered in Montreal to share their stories, resources, and strategies on the path towards truth.
Part of my position is to speak with Indigenous communities and survivors of Indian residential schools.
Kimberly Murray, the special interlocutor for missing children and unmarked graves, says these gatherings are essential and need to continue after her mandate is up in June 2024.
We're seeing that communities and survivors want to continue the work that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission did. We have people coming forward that are survivors of the residential schools that never shared their experience with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Murray says Canadians should examine the information that's been gathered, especially when residential school denialism is on the rise.
Go to the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation website, listen to the survivor testimony that's recorded. It's public, people can listen to it. Look at the documents that are available on the website, and you'll see that there's the blueprints that were created when they were making the institutions, where they showed this is where the cemetery is going to be. There are the documents that say the cemetery is full, we're going to have to start burying the kids across the street.
She adds that many archives remain hidden.
Provinces hold records. They hold death certificates. They hold records on burial permits. So it's important that the provincial archives open up as well.
One tool to bring these to light, Quebec's Bill 79, which allows families of children who disappeared from healthcare institutions in Quebec to access their documents.
Mais là, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que les institutions doivent donner l'information. Que ce soit un hôpital, un sanatorium, un cimetière, un diocèse, ils sont dans l'obligation de donner l'information à la famille.
Anne Panasuk was the special advisor to the province supporting families of those missing children. When she was working as a journalist, her investigation revealed the widespread event of Indigenous children going missing after receiving health care outside of their communities.
Qu'un enfant ait disparu au pensionnat, qu'un enfant ait disparu à l'hôpital, c'est la même douleur pour les familles.
Panasuk talked about Bill 79 at the Unmarked Graves gathering, sparking interest from people from other nations outside of Quebec.
Je cumule les conférences et les présentations pour faire en sorte que les associations autochtones le demandent. Et je sais que l'interlocutrice indépendante nommée par Ottawa est très intéressée à la loi 79 et j'espère qu'elle le soumettra au gouvernement fédéral. Mais encore, la santé est du domaine provincial.
Françoise Rupert-House is Anishinaabe from Pikogan. She works for Awashak, an organization that helps families in the search for their children.
J'ai toujours pensé qu'on n'était pas beaucoup qui avaient perdu des enfants à partir des hôpitaux, mais on est rendu à 156, puis on a juste 3 nations de fait. Même pas, on a 2 nations et demie de fait.
Rupert House's brother and sister disappeared after being admitted to Amos Hospital. Now she's helping other families find answers.
Je pense que les Autochtones devraient se lever puis demander une loi qui ressemble à la loi 79 au Québec, puis que tout le monde se lève au Canada parce qu'on n'a pas été traités pareil comme tout le monde, je veux dire.
Amelia Fournier, APTN National News, Montreal.
The Kisiku's First Nation in Saskatchewan has taken a major step toward building their own hospital. CTV's Brady Lang has the details.
It was a history-making, groundbreaking day on Kisiku's First Nation.
Chairs are ready.
1, 2, 3. From ribbons cut to shovels in the ground, a new hospital is officially coming to the reserve. The planning began years ago with a vision of not just having a hospital, but operating a hospital, which promises to be Indigenous-led and not operated by the Saskatchewan Health Authority.
We're taking a lot of stress off them because of the services that they provide aren't up to standard that we would like to have, you know. And there's a lot of traditional and Western methods that are going to be beneficial for our communities.
Kisiku's itself, along with neighboring Cody and Key First Nations, will use the facility, but they also hope to open the doors for those in and around the 3 Indigenous communities. The cost is roughly $44 million, with the project location centralized between the 3 nations. When it comes to site selection for this new facility, it's not just that this location is centralized for all 3 of these member nations that will be using this facility. There's also a historical aspect, according to Chief Kachamonia.
This is the old residential school here, St. Philip's Residential School, and then we had the St. Philip's Day School, which is where I went to school. And there was a lot of bad memories that went on. But this is a way to showcase again to our community members that we can heal, we can move on.
He adds he hopes when members drive by after the facility is built, they will be creating good memories in the space. This build will be the second modern-day hospital on Indigenous land in the province, the other being the All Nations Hospital on the Treaty 4 grounds near Fort Qu'Appelle. For leadership, the ability to control health services and allow an alternate option for the long waits and temporary closures in areas like Kamsack and Yorkton, all of this will go a long way.
It's important, you know, just basically for the health of our communities. You know, we want to have a healthy community again.
Brady Lang, CTV News, Kisakus First Nation.
Health Canada is set to roll out a new COVID-19 vaccine this fall. At a press conference in Ottawa Tuesday, health officials said an updated version of Moderna's Spikevax vaccine has been approved for use in Canada. They said the new vaccine should be available for widespread use by early October. Chief Public Health Officer Theresa Tam said after months of decline, COVID infection rates have seen an uptick in recent weeks, and Canadians would be wise to get the latest vaccine when it becomes available.
It has been more than 6 months since your last dose of COVID-19 vaccine or your last infection. Your protection from the virus may have waned. Receiving a COVID-19 vaccine dose this fall with an updated formulation is expected to increase individual protection against infection, symptoms, and severe disease.
We have plenty more news still to come, but first, a short break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. A new book by a first-time author from BC is quickly climbing the best-selling list in Canada. APTN's Tina House joins us from Vancouver.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be joined today by my friend Ruben George here at Massey Books. Ruben, you've just launched your new book, It Stops Here. Let's talk about that book and what is it all about?
Well, when they asked me to write a book, it was actually my son. He said, "It's easy, Dad." I go, "Why?" And he goes, "It's Star Wars." And I went, "What?" He said, "The evil empire of Canada against the Georges and Tsleil-Waututh." And that's what it's about. It's about colonization. But it's about using the tools that our ancestors used for thousands of years to pull us out of any hurt or pain or trauma. And that's what we did. And that's what the book's about. It's not just me, but it could be the same story for all Indigenous people across Canada. We all experienced the effects of colonization and residential school. But when we got into the healing part of it, and it was ceremonial. And when we find the freedom in ceremony, we want to do things better. That's protect our lands, waters, and people. And that's what we do, because responsibility about coming out of ceremonies, you feel good, is to share that goodness and protect what you love. That's what the book's about.
So for the last 13 years, I know that you've dedicated your life as well as your son and daughter, and even your mother. I was actually up on Burnaby Mountain when she got arrested that day, and to see her in handcuffs, it actually broke my heart to see that, and to see her hauled away by the RCMP. This book here symbolizes your fight against big oil. Your community is literally across the bay from where Westridge Dock is, where the Trans Mountain Pipeline will end. Tell me about your fight against the Trans Mountain Pipeline, and why are you fighting so hard against big oil?
Well, I think it's in us. Like my kids say, we will not be the generation that stops fighting. That's brilliant for them to say that. But my great-great-grandfather, Slavehold, he stood up and protected the land. My grandfather, and actually the title of the book, It Stops Here. I got it from a story that he did that he said, no more, no, it stops here. We're gonna stand up for our rights. So it's generational that we've been doing it, but it's been 13 years that we've been standing up to this pipeline, postponed it till this point, and it's a big mess, as you know, economically, environmentally. It has the potential to be a disaster. It's 87%, not if, but when a spill happens. So we have to protect what we love.
And when it comes to bitumen, what we know that is it's almost like a tar ball that sinks to the bottom of the ocean. I do know that if they skim the surface and collect maybe 10%, they call that a good cleanup. So what happens to the rest? What will happen to your community if there is a spill in that bay?
Well, not just our community, but if you look at Vancouver, within hours, 1 million people will be sick. Within days, 500,000 birds will be gone, permanent. Look at Exxon Valdez. Decades later, it's still a mess. And the potential for a spill is something we can't take, and we can't take the risk. So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Ruben, I've seen you travel all over the globe with this fight against climate change. We're seeing the effects now in all of our communities. We've just been ravaged by fire season this year, as well as floods, droughts, you name it. Where do you plan on taking your fight next?
Well, you know, what I hope people get out of the book is our world's in trauma. I think we're missing genuine spirit, because if we had spirit, we wouldn't make these decisions. If it's not in our backyard, we won't do anything about it, but it is. It is, like you said, fires, floods, temperature, everything's changing. And we have the power and capacity to do something and create a better way. And so that's our message. That's what we're going to put out. That's what we hope to get out of the book is, and other projects that we're working on is don't just stand by and watch. You could do something about it. Don't settle.
Ruben, George, thank you so much for joining us. To get your latest copy, go to massivebooks.com.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Back to you in studio.
Thanks.
All right, thanks so much for that, Tina. And now here is Maricel Amador with that story.
This empty pedestal at Place du Canada in Montreal is where the John A. Macdonald statue stood for over 120 years, until it was toppled and beheaded in 2020 during an anti-racism protest calling for the defunding of the police. Now, the city of Montreal has finally announced the future of the monument.
La statue ne revient pas Place du Canada.
Montreal City Councillor Aliyah Hassan-Corneau says the decision was made after an independent group composed of various experts presented their recommendations to the city's executive committee, who approved them.
Le socle et le baldaquin vont rester, mais pas la statue. Ensuite, on vient ajouter une plaque réinterprétative. Donc là, on ne réécrit pas l'histoire. On l'assume, on la complète.
The statue of Canada's first Prime Minister, who oversaw the Indian Act and authorized the creation of the residential school system, was vandalized and defaced multiple times over the years.
On va lancer un appel à projet pour une œuvre d'art pluridisciplinaire, art visuel, art numérique. Et là, vraiment, on appelle les artistes autochtones à postuler à cet appel à projet.
But not everybody was happy with the decision. Chantal Rossi, the leader of the official opposition, said in a written statement that the city should establish clear guidelines to determine which statues should be preserved, turned into places of remembrance, sent to a museum, or disappear in the event of further vandalism. Omeaso Wapaseo, an assistant professor in Indigenous Studies at Carleton University, who is Cree from Treaty 6, says that she really loves the idea of reimagining the site of the statue with Indigenous art.
Canadian history is not going anywhere. I just did my little Google search of John A. Macdonald, and his little, greatness arose from the depths of the internet. It's not disappearing. It's not ever going to disappear.
The statue is currently being held at an undisclosed location. The City of Montreal is also in talks with different institutions to decide where to place the monument. Maricel Amador, APTN National News, Montreal.
All right, we need to take one more quick break. Photo of the day and weather are next. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Once again, Clarence Jones sent in this beautiful photo taken from his porch. Another beautiful sunset from the Gitxsan Nation. Clarence, thank you so much for that photo. Be sure to send your photos to share@aptn.ca if you want to be featured as our next photo of the day. Right now, let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Beginning on the East Coast, the 16 in St. John's and 23 in Halifax. 17 in Cartwright and 12 in Kuujjuaq. 19 degrees in Quebec City and 22 in Montreal. 20 and clear in Toronto and 14 in North Bay. 16 degrees in Wawa and clear 19 in Big Trout Lake. Mix of sun and cloud and 20 in Churchill and 20 in Norway House. 18 degrees in Barons River and 19 in Winnipeg. 24 in Yorkton and 23 in Saskatoon. Meadow Lake is looking at 23 degrees and 20 in Stony Rapids. As we continue west to 17 in Fort McMurray and 19 in Peace River. 22 degrees in Red Deer, and 25 in Lethbridge. 25 degrees in Kamloops and 20 in Bella Coola. 17 degrees in Sandspit and 19 in Fort Nelson. Whitehorse is looking at 15 degrees in a mix of sun and cloud, and 13 in Clear in Old Crow. 19 in Norman Wells and 18 in Wrigley. 13 degrees in Inuvik and 16 in Colville Lake. 4 degrees in Cambridge Bay and 4 in Chesterfield. 4 degrees as well in Aglulik and 3 degrees in Kingaye. Ryan Willis is a Bigfoot researcher and founder of the Trent University Sasquatch Society. He is also the host-producer of a new TV show called Sasquatch University on the Wild TV channel. I spoke with him earlier to learn a bit more about the group. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here and welcome. First off, can you tell us a bit about your group Sasquatch University and how this all got started?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So we started something called the Trent University Sasquatch Society at Trent University here in Ontario, and that kind of led to us doing a TV show, Sasquatch University, coming out on the Wild TV channel the week of September 25th.
So why did you dedicate so much of your time proving that Sasquatch exists, and you know, why are you just so interested in this in the first place?
I've been incredibly interested in Bigfoot ever since I was a little kid, since probably about 10 or 11 years old. And it kind of led to me going out in the woods up in Algonquin Park over the years and doing my own investigations and things like that. And by the time I got to Trent, I met some other people with similar interests. We formed a group and started all this. And we collect reports from all over Canada. And a lot of people send us really good evidence and different things like that. So it's been really cool to get kind of a first-hand look at everything. And, you know, I'm a full-on believer now, and I think it's just the coolest thing ever.
Well, and as you mentioned, Ryan, Sasquatch University is also on Wild TV, which is super cool. So what can viewers see on the program? Is there, you know, maybe any evidence of Sasquatch or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe after the interview, I'll send you guys some of the different clips. But yeah, there'll be video evidence of Bigfoot, photo evidence, audio clips, tracks. We were able to come across a lot of evidence by connecting with Ontarians. And yeah, they had a lot to send us and give us. So there was a lot to investigate. And we'll be covering all that in the show. And, you know, hopefully by the time people are done watching, they'll all be believers too.
Well, we'll certainly have to check that out there, Ryan. We'll have to leave it there, but we just wanted to speak with you quickly about this and how cool and interesting all this is. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Again, certainly have to check that show out. All right, that is all we have for you this evening on APTN National News. As always, our website has plenty more Indigenous news for you at aptnnews.ca. For all of us here, thank you so much for joining us. Miigwech, Kinanask, and have a great evening.